A parent's worst nightmare.
We had a student that was jumped, bleeding from the head and nose. Julie was unconscious.
He never imagined his child's life would end over a vape pen and some earbuds.
10 of them have been arrested.
That violent fight went viral. What are the charges they're facing?
Murder.
You say there's nothing more you could do, but there is more that we can do. I have a grave warning for you tonight. Families are under attack in America. The relationship between parent and child is falling apart. Families are often defaulting to their children to find role models among their peers or on the internet in social media platforms, rather than creating a family unit including strong role models and a solid moral compass. Now, is that happening on purpose? Of course not. But there's so much noise, so much happening around us. What we have is a situation that the competition is so great. There's so many voices in our children's ears. And those voices come with a lot of glamour, a lot of glitz. And that makes being a role model so much harder. So we just have to understand that our job has to ratchet up. And that means we can't be weak role models. We just can't. The emotional development of these kids and their coping skills is resulting in low self-esteem because they're not getting experience because they're living on their phones. Videos of teens beating other teens up for likes has taken a huge uptick on these social media platforms. Now, think about that. Why is it happening? The evidence is that there's just no North Star, no value system. Why are kids out doing this to each other? You have to say, where's the responsibility in these crisis situations? The effects are wide-reaching. We see them in the workplace, crime on our streets, and in our schools. This country is based on a meritocracy where people stand up and earn their right to be in the positions they're in, and there has to be accountability. But these schools are not even being custodians of the position they have. They are clearly rewarding bad behavior, not teaching critical thinking, and not requiring students to treat themselves and others with dignity and respect. Now, has the system, the family unit, failed these bullies? Well, maybe so. But first, you have to put out the fire before you focus on fire prevention. Now, we're going to meet two mothers who say their teen daughters will never be the same after their beatdowns by the same bully actually went viral. And we're going to talk also to the 13-year-old girl who threw the punches and her parents to find out why she required so little of herself. But first, a parent's worst nightmare. Jonathan says he knew his 17-year-old son, also named Jonathan, was being bullied at school, but he never imagined his child's life would end over a vape pen and some earbuds.
17-year-old Jonathan Lewis died after several days on life support.
We had a student that was jumped, bleeding from the head and nose, and there was a nurse that was on scene starting CPR. Julie was unconscious.
He was trying to protect one of his smaller friends, and three of them kind of attacked him, and he defended himself, and they couldn't beat him up, so the rest of the group joined in.
Julie is most likely going to die from this.
It's just like absolute lunacy. You know, it just looks like these kids have gone totally mad.
Oh my God.
Jonathan, you've seen the video of that fight, correct?
I've seen a few seconds of it. I couldn't really watch any of it. It really was damaging to my heart and my mind to even watch it.
I can't even imagine. And that was not the only day that your son was bullied, correct?
Yes, there was several other instances. Obviously, this is a large group that gets together all the time, and they're all over the school. I mean, the schools are not that large, and they had been stealing stuff from him and his small friend, and this was occurred. There was several instances that were known that had occurred within the weeks prior.
And had he talked to you about this?
We had talked on the phone several times in the weeks prior, and I knew something was wrong. I kept messaging him and his mom and telling him that he needs to leave Las Vegas and come live with me. And I called CPS, and nobody would listen to me.
So what happened, as far as you know, is that this was an after-school incident, and his friend, who was smaller, had something taken of his, something stolen.
Yes, it's alleged, but I believe that there's also evidence that the detectives have that they know. That's what they have told me.
4 students that were involved in this situation have been arrested and charged with murder, correct? There are others that are being looked at and will likely be charged as well.
Yes, 10 of them have been arrested.
Okay, 10 have been arrested now?
Yes, I believe it's 10.
And according to police, they will be charged and tried as adults. So people get a sense of what happened, and I know you don't want to look at this, and we're gonna play this now so people get a sense of the violence. And if you want to look away at this point, this is a good time to close your eyes. You can see this is like a pack of wild animals here. Obviously, his son is on the ground. He's being kicked, he's being punched, and he wound up in the hospital and died 6 days later of multiple blunt force trauma to the head. As parents, we expect when we send our kids to school alive in the morning, we expect them to come home alive at the end of the day. We expect them to be safe in school. We expect the administrators of the school to communicate to parents, to have an awareness if there is a gang of thugs moving about the school and intimidating others. Now, the school says, well, this happened off the school grounds. This was yards off of the school boundary. That's my understanding. Is that yours?
Yes, that is the understanding. However, I mean, this group of kids is known to be doing these type of activities around the school. And the school obviously knows that these kind of events are occurring. You know, they even knew all of these children, and they brought them in for questioning after this occurred. So they obviously knew who these people were.
And they made a statement. They said, although the incident occurred off campus and after school hours, the student was brought back to campus, and our committed staff members who were still on campus immediately rendered aid until first responders arrived. What did you think the purpose of that statement was?
They don't want to hold themselves accountable. They don't want to reflect and analyze what could be done better based upon the cost, based upon the monstrosity of the issue. So they just send out a blanket statement to the media, absolving themselves in any way, shape, or form that they can.
And when you found out about this, that your son was in the hospital, what was your first reaction?
I just dropped to the ground and was shaking so badly I couldn't even function. And, you know, I was just unimaginably ripped apart into a million pieces in my heart and in my mind. We sat in the hospital with him and just held his hand and just did everything we could to just hold hope. And, you know, I mean, I just sat there, and I had to be told by a doctor that my son was brain dead.
When you realized it was over, and that he had in fact been kicked and beaten to death, take me through that moment.
As a human being, I felt just an overwhelming sadness for humanity. And as a dad, I don't ever get to hug my son again, and I don't get to help him to explore life and expand himself and develop himself and be able to ever go hang out with him. Or it was just obviously broke my heart. Yeah, it was just brutal, unimaginably brutal.
Well, I'm going to ask you a hard question that I know you've asked yourself, which is why I'm going to ask it to you now. Do you feel like you failed your boy? War in Iran is heating up, and the fallout's reaching us fast. Markets are rattled, global confidence is shaky, and investors are bracing for what's next. This week alone, hedge funds moved billions into hard assets, while central banks quietly stockpiled gold. In times like these, smart people don't sit back, they move toward safety. For me, that means gold and silver. Secure your future now while there's still time. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 to get your free precious metals guide from Preserve Gold. Gold is already up big this year, and with more volatility ahead, you cannot afford to wait. You could even get up to $15,000 in free silver with a qualified purchase. Don't wait for the next market shock. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 now before it's too late.
I did everything I could for my son. I mean, there's no way that we could ever say that we, as parents, I feel like we're constantly striving to do more for our children. We're constantly, trying to develop ourselves. We're constantly trying to be there more and engage more and give more and develop ourselves more and lead by example more. But there is absolutely nothing that you could possibly ever do. When they're out there, when the community has developed itself into this state where we have apathy and where violence and domination is promoted by the collective and by our so-called leaders, and that's what they have to walk into every day, there's nothing you can do. There's literally, you're totally helpless. I on a consistent basis, day in, day out, stress over my children's safety. And you try everything you can. You try working with other people. I try contacting CPS. Nobody would do anything. They're like, well, what evidence do you have? Like, I can sense it. I'm talking to my son and I know something's wrong. I know something's deeply, deeply wrong. And he doesn't want to tell me everything because he's a strong, proud young man and he wants to, handle his own life, which is good. And I taught my son to be loving and kind and respectful, and that those are the great strengths of a warrior. I have the last text message I had with me and my son was, we were talking about how if you have love in your life, you have everything. And at 17 years old, my son understood that. He messaged me back and he's like, yeah, Dad, I'm realizing that more and more, that if you have love, you have everything. What more can any of us do when this is the state of our society? On a consistent basis, our children just are being bombarded with toxic, horrific domination, violence. On a consistent basis, we're just allowing all of our leaders to say that all the problems should be solved with violence and that there's no other way to be able to promote any other sense of community other than that we have to just control everybody and everybody has to be inoculated and nobody can have their natural state of elevation, including inside of their immunological structure. Like this is a problem that goes from the very root of our entire existence all the way through to our psyche. Like there's not one part that is left unhinged.
Well, I'm not going to tell you that I know how you feel because I can't say that. I have two boys. Robin and I have two sons. And if you haven't lost a child, I can't look you in the eye, dad to dad, and tell you I know how you feel because I don't. But I have to disagree with you. You say there's nothing more you could do, but there is more that we can do. You use the word collective. As a community, as a country, as a collective consciousness, we have to fight back against this. We have to stand up and fight for the soul of America. We have to stand up and fight together against this. We've got these acts of violence going on around this country. We have them going on in our schools and on the streets. And together we can stand up and fight back against this. I mean, do y'all agree with that? I mean, we've got to stand up and do something about this. We cannot allow this to go on. We've got courts that aren't holding people accountable. We've got prosecutors that aren't prosecuting violent criminals. We've got judges that are putting them back on the streets. And we've got to be willing to step up and say enough is enough and too much is too much. And we're going to protect our children. We're going to protect our families. And the only way we're going to do that is if we raise our collective voices to say enough is enough and too much is too much. And when you have come here and you've lost a son like this, then, people have to feel that pain and share that with you and stand with you in this fight.
I completely agree with you. I can't do it on my own, but we can do it together. And that's why I'm creating this organization, the Love Humanity Movement, for my son, based upon that last message I sent him. Because I come from a warrior class family. We're a warrior culture. And it's okay to have warriors, but we need to have healthy warriors. We need to be able to teach them to protect and to be loving and kind, not to be violent, not to promote sadistic behavior. And we can only do that together by showing them the strength of what a community can be. When these children see what compassion is in action, when they see what empathy is in action, when 100 or 1,000 people get together and they work together to do some actual good for the community, create systems of working together that when they leave the school, there's people that know about it and they can communicate with one another. When there's parental platforms, that there's mediation between parents that don't work well together. And when we're actually teaching our children that we care about them by actually building healing arts centers and community programs that promote positive media and have positive media platforms. It's very clear, Newman, for instance, he said very clearly, the mob mentality is clearly known in the state of psychology, and that it could very easily be a variant of what positive or negative.
No, there's no question about that. I say we've got to be who we are on purpose. You don't wake up each day and just go through the world reacting to whatever is put in front of you. You have to decide, I'm going to be who I am on purpose. I'm going to create the environment in which we live on purpose. And we've got to decide what that purpose is.
I'm here today to announce that we have 8 suspects in custody for the murder of Jonathan Lewis.
I saw it on the news and everything, but I still didn't know Gianni was involved until about 2 or 3 days later. That's when my brother called me and told me about it. The boy jumped on Gianni. He pushed Gianni and punched him in the face, and that's how it all got started. He's being charged with second-degree murder. I don't know why, because how can you murder somebody when you're defending yourself from them? I mean, he just turned 17. They're going to charge him as an adult. These are kids. They didn't go in there trying to kill nobody. It was just a fight. They was protecting themselves from this guy with the knife. I blame my nephew and I blame the system, because the system is failing. Where were the school police? Where were the metro police? That was preventable. I'm sorry for their loss. I hope they can move on from it. I know it's going to be painful for years to come, but I pray to God that He just bless them and keep them and watch over them and put forgiveness in their heart.
What's your reaction to that?
My son didn't go out there wielding a knife, trying to stab anybody. There was obviously an origin from this, and these events were known. They were spread throughout the school. But they were stealing stuff and they were bullying them and dominating them. And when you get to that point, this is why I continue to bring up that we have to have a healthy warrior culture, because it's absolutely natural for you, when you're backed into the corner, that you're going to try to do something about it.
I've read the police reports. There was no knife found at the scene. That's what I'm saying. There's got to be accountability here. You can't blame, the police should have been there to stop them. Yeah, I wish the police had been there. But, this starts at home.